What's up, everybody? You're back in here with the Pro Football Pod. You've got Hope, Coach. We're hanging out with you. We are continuing with the off-season ranking series, positional series for you guys. Be sure to leave a comment down below, subscribe, hit that button right there. 500 subscribers, we're going to give away a free jersey to one of you lucky viewers. It's like the bare minimum benchmark. So like we should have hit it by now, but you know, we're still growing. We're still continuing. We're here for you. We want to give you a jersey. Do it. Also, we're doing a Pro Football Pod Dynasty draft, and we would like you to be a part of it. We'll make as many leagues as we need to be able to make if we get, you know, many people coming in. But we want serious people only. We're looking to do it for money because fantasy football is just, it's more fun when you're getting paid, right?
Yeah, exactly. A little bit of skin in the game.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, it's the same. That's why betting's so popular, you know? This is just a season-long bet. It's what we like to call an investment, you know? So, hey, leave a comment down below. Let us know if you're interested, and we'll reach out to you for sure. At ProFootball_pod on the Twitter machine. TulsiRoseTea.com is the sponsor. Let's go ahead and dive into it, Coach. Give me your 25 through 21 running backs.
So I started with Tony Pollard at 25, then Zamir White, Najee Harris, David Montgomery, Raheem Mostert. And obviously, with having Raheem and David Montgomery on this list at this point, you know for a fact that they're the second ranked on their team. I do think that there are going to be two teams that have two running backs that are better than at least 23 other teams. Like, I think that as far as fantasy goes with Raheem and David, their touchdown presence is going to be so much that they're going to warrant being highly drafted, even though they're not necessarily going to make the most points on their team.
I feel you. Tony Pollard didn't make my list.
Really?
I think Tajay Spears had a very good, productive season for what you could expect him to have as a rookie. And for what he showed and how much his skill set is that of Tony Pollard. Now, Tony's going to obviously most likely come in getting the start. He's the veteran guy. I easily can see that happening.
I think it's a 50-50 split. I just think that Tony Pollard is at least potentially able to, who do you have at 25 that you left Tony off? Like, do you have DeAndre Swift on your list?
So my 25 through 21, I have Nick Chubb at 25.
Nick Chubb doesn't make my list.
I know he's coming back from the injury. I do not care. Like, there is not going to be a top 25 running back list.
Even if he doesn't make the top for 6 weeks.
If he's out the first 6 weeks, I still don't care. Okay. Because I know I'm Gucci for the playoffs.
But do you think that he ranks in a half PPR as, like, at the end of the season, he'll be a top 25 in not points per game, but throughout the longevity of the season? Like, you think he'll have more points than a Tony Pollard or like a Zamir White?
I would not be shocked if he did.
Okay. I think that his leg basically dislocated and might as well have left it on the field.
No, this is one of those, like, we'll call it, like, okay, I could have probably put a couple guys ahead, but when I was making my top 25, he was going to be in my top 28, and I just can't leave Nick Chubb off my list. Like, I'll fly that flag.
And Jerome Ford didn't make my list. Neither of them are on my list at all.
Oh, yeah, Jerome Ford didn't make my list. So,
I feel like if there was
Raheem,
one player for the Browns that I would have had, it would have been Jerome Ford. And he wasn't far off my list. Him and DeAndre Swift, Jalen Warren, Brian Thomas, Devin Singletary, these guys didn't make my list. Even Javonte Williams, it was hard to leave him off, like, with the talk in camp. But I just feel like Tony Pollard has enough of that boom potential. He was dealing with injury last year, which isn't a really well-known fact, that he was hobbled throughout most of the season. That's why I have him just barely squeak into my top 25.
I got you. And like you said, you don't have DeAndre Swift in yours. I have him at 21.
Okay.
Like, I think he had a very good season with Philly last year. And how many touchdowns were vultured by Jalen Hurts going in at the 1 yard line?
Yeah, that's a
Going to
very good
happen
point.
in Chicago. Like
I
they're not doing that with Caleb Williams.
yeah.
And I know Khalil Herbert's still there. Like you still got some guys there that can take things away from him. Dante Foreman,
No, for
he's
me it's Roshan Johnson.
Roshan Johnson. Yeah, he
Johnson is,
does pose a threat,
yeah,
but I
second year
think out
player.
of those guys, I think Swift gives them the best ability in passing downs. So because of that, being the more veteran guy, he's shown that he can do it. He showed you when he was in Detroit if he just, could have stayed healthy. And like I said, he had a very solid season last year with Philly. So that's why he made my list, and I'd put him in there at 21 because I like him more than Montgomery, Zamir White, Mostert, and Chubb.
So you have Chubb as 25, and then what was the rest of the list?
Mostert 24, Zamir White 23, David Montgomery 22, and DeAndre Swift 21.
So then you must have Najee quite a bit higher on your list. No, Najee didn't make the list at all. I feel like
I think Jalen Warren eats into his production way too much.
I think that that's true.
And vice versa. Like I couldn't put either. Now, if I did a top 30, they probably both would be there.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
But I think they just eat into each other's stuff too much to where I want no part of the Steelers backfield because I don't know who's going to be the hot hand each week, or are both guys just going to be good for 8 points each week?
I feel like Jalen Warren is such an efficiency player. Like whenever we talked about what made Austin Eckler great throughout his career, he didn't need a lot of snaps. He was efficient with what he did get, and that's how he got all of his points. I think that Najee is still the bell cow, not necessarily 3 downs every drive, and I don't think it's a 50-50 split either. And I think that
No, it's more 60-40, but I want to see like 70-30
I feel
before I
like
can do that.
the Steelers' offense just got a lot better. And if you remember, Russ has always had a good running game under him because
And
of
if
what.
they get Brandon Ayuk, if the rumors coming out are true, it
man.
hasn't been official yet, but yeah, Brandon Ayuk might be a Steeler.
Yeah, Pickens might drop on my wide receiver list if that happens.
That'd be great. Like
yeah,
if they got. So yeah,
So my next 10, 20 through 11, I'm going Aaron Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, Josh Jacobs, James Conner, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, Devon Achane, Alvin Kamara, James Cook, and I have Derrick Henry at 11, which for a lot of people might be too low on the list because there's not a lot of competition there. I think they're forgetting that Lamar Jackson is the most competition that any running back is going to have to go against. There is no other running back that's giving more competition than Lamar. Like, it's not that he's going to get a lot of carries. It's just the opportunities of him throwing the ball and it turning into run plays is so often. I don't think Derek will get to touch the type of touches that he got last year or ever in his career.
Oh, I agree. Like, I don't see him doing that either myself. There was somebody in your top. You had Devon Achane at
at 14.
14.
And that's partially because of Raheem Mostert, but it's more because of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I think that the passing game is such a big part of what the Dolphins are doing. In the first half last year, the Dolphins were passing like 65 to 70% of the time. And because they were blowing teams out, then the running game became what they were doing in the second half over 60% of the time. I don't know if that's an attainable number to like bet on. I think that Devon Achane has a great year, but I'm not willing to spend a top 10 wide running back pick on him like a lot of people are.
So what about the reports coming out of camp and out of all the mini camps in the offseason where he was getting more work at slot receiver as well?
I think that he showed the ability to receive the ball very well. But right now, at receiver 3, you have Braxton Berrios for the Dolphins.
Well, see, now I'm not saying is him coming in and legit being a
You also
wide
have
receiver.
Odell. Like
I'm
Odell
looking
is
at it
there.
as I'm looking at it as he is coming in and being a ultimate gadget guy with all the motion
Yeah.
that Mike McDaniel runs, and to be able to put him and Mostert on the field at the same time, or him and Jalen Wright, the rookie coming in, like that's where my excitement comes. And I do think they are going to look to get him into the passing game more, keep
Yeah.
him more on the outside, which they're more of an outside zone team anyways. But that's where I'm looking at it, to where he is higher on my list. We'll get into that later.
So whenever you start naming players, Tyreek Hill is a top 5 wide receiver. Jalen Waddle's a top 15 wide receiver. And then you've got Odell now there. You've got Jonnu Smith now there. And then you've got Raheem Mostert. All of these guys are creating competition for Devon. Whereas the other guys that I have above him, like Alvin Kamara, nobody is competing with Alvin Kamara except for Chris Olave for touches. James Cook
Taysom
basically.
Hill, come on now.
Yeah, he's an efficiency guy, though. He doesn't touch the ball a bunch of times. James Cook basically has a rookie wide receiver to compete with, and he has Josh Allen running the ball himself. Derrick Henry has Lamar, and he has Zay Flowers, and he has Mark Andrews. But Derrick Henry is just such a fucking workhorse. So like all these guys, I think have the potential to do more than Devon. Devon's ceiling is higher than every single one of them, but his floor is also lower than all of them. And I'd rather go with the less risk approach than more risk.
I agree. But if healthy, his floor is also higher than all of them. He showed it in just the 4 or 5 games you got of him
But
last
he's like
year.
180
he still
pounds.
ended the season as a top 15 running back,
I know.
the guy didn't play most of the year.
I know. He had 200-yard games or something crazy. He had like 5 or 6 touchdowns in 3 games.
So
it
we'll
was
get
insane.
into it. But
Yeah.
all right, so my 20 through 11 is pretty much all the same players, just in a different order.
Okay.
I got Ramondre Stevenson at 20, James Conner at 19, Josh Jacobs at 18, Aaron Jones at 17, Rashad White at 16, Alvin Kamara at 15, Joe Mixon at 14, Kenneth Walker III at 13, James Cook at 12, Derrick Henry also at 11.
So I think the only thing that you said that sounded crazy to me was James White being so low. I have James White as my number 10 running back. I'm sorry, not James White, Rashad White. And it's because he does have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans to compete with, but he's basically the running back. He's a 3-down receiving back, pass protection, running the ball with efficiency. He does everything at such a high level. I think he'd be higher on my list if I thought that the Bucs offense was a top 10 offense. But I don't think they are. I think they're a top 15 easily, even with Baker. But like I just think that's my only qualm with what you said.
Now, I'm with you. I do understand I have him lower than probably most people at number 16. However, he averaged 3.6 yards a carry, only gave you 6 rushing touchdowns, only 3 receiving touchdowns. The 64 receptions is awesome. You love to see that. 549 receiving yards, you will take that. But the guy only went over 100 yards twice and only cleared 70 rushing yards 7 times. Like, so for me, there's just not enough there with the rushing capabilities for me to really feel great about the guys I have over him, with Kamara, Mixon, Walker, Cook, and Henry. And then the guys we'll get into with the top 10. But that's where I looked at it, to where, yes, he was a fantasy darling last year because of where people were able to get him. Versus this year, he's going in the 3rd, 4th round. So in some instances, your RB1, like, I love him as an RB2. I don't like him as an RB1.
I do. I think that he's the bottom of my RB1. That's why I have him as my number 10. He's the last guy that I think is like totally worth having all the guys above him are easily above him, even though for some of them, like, they might have more competition. It's just it. I feel like he does it all as a player, and I really I want him for sure in drafts. I think that last year you're right, where you got him was an absolute value, but this year I think that you can still get value from him. I feel like our top 10 is going to be very similar. Not necessarily
Especially
in order.
the top 5. So
Yeah.
go ahead and roll through your top 10 right here.
So I've got Rashad White, and then I've got Isaiah Pacheco. Travis Etienne is 8. Saquon is 7. Kyron Williams at 6. Jonathan Taylor at 5. Bijan at 4. Jameer at 3. Breece Hall at 2. And Christian McCaffrey at 1. I think Isaiah at my 9 has a lot to do with all of the other pieces on that team. They're not necessarily a run first. I think that he'll make up for it in touchdowns, though. I think Marquise Brown and just the other like speed pieces there are going to be able to get them into the red zone enough that he'll get those 2 or 3 tries at the goal line often enough to make it worth it. I think that he's absolutely a 10-plus touchdown guy this year between receiving and rushing. And there's a lot of reports saying that he's been working with the wide receiver coach all offseason just on receiving. So I think that he takes a step there, and in a half point, I think that he'll not necessarily have the volume, but I think he'll have the touchdowns.
Where'd you have Saquon?
I have Saquon at 7. 8,
Okay.
Travis Etienne is right after him.
Yeah.
But I feel like with Saquon, it's he's in a great position for the team that he's on. There's a lot of other pieces there, and Jalen Hurts is going to take some touchdowns from him, but he's a much better receiving threat and rushing threat than DeAndre Swift was. And Swift had a great career year last year.
I was going to say career. What happened? I got to remove him from my list. It's T's and P's, bro. All right, so hey, if you're still here with us, we love you. We appreciate you. Subscribe down below. 500 subscribers, free jersey coming to one of you guys. My top 10, I got Isaiah Pacheco at 10, Kyron Williams at 9, Devon Achane at 8, Travis Etienne at 7, Jonathan Taylor at 6, Saquon at 5, Bijan at 4, Jameer at 3, Breece at 2, Christian at 1.
Are you afraid of Blake Corum at all?
Mm-hmm.
So Blake Corum was a 3rd round running back.
I don't care about that.
And I get that he was efficient last year. He had a good amount of
Williams
touchdowns.
Was what, a second round pick?
Yeah, but my big thing is that Kyron Williams, he had 0 competition last year. 0. Like, he touched the ball, he was on the field 90% of the time on average. But he was efficient as fuck. Even on the
is my thing. The guy had 228 attempts along with 48 targets. When he was on the field, he was always on the field, and
he got a lot of touchdowns.
And he did. Yes, absolutely. But see, I think that's where it regresses to the mean there a little bit, because I think Blake Corum is the perfect guy to allow him to get a breather for what Blake Corum showed you at Michigan and what he's able to do. And every report that I've seen coming out of camp has been Blake Corum has been looking great. Now, I think there was some things that, kind of monitoring some ankle stuff, I believe, but nothing too serious right now. Sean McVay's not really going to give you any information anyways.
Exactly.
But so that's why Kyron, I do have him lower than what you have him at 6.
I feel like
I understand it.
I feel like the first 6 weeks, we see Kyron Williams getting the same workload that he got last year. Blake Corum might get in a couple drives here and there. But they're gonna ease him into that system. The Rams system is very, very complex. Puka Nacua doing what he did was only because Cooper Kupp was out. If Cooper Kupp was there, Puka Nacua doesn't break all those records. If Cooper Kupp played a whole season, because they just wouldn't have relied on him as much.
No, absolutely not. He's not looking at 12 catches in each game in the first what, 5 weeks?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Like, they used him because of necessity.
And then where did you have Travis Etienne?
7.
So I only had him one spot lower.
He has nobody behind him.
Yeah.
Like, Tank Bigsby showed absolutely nothing last year.
Agreed.
Love the guy coming out of Auburn. Unless he takes a significant jump this offseason, there's nobody to push him for carries. He gets plenty of receptions out of the backfield. I love Travis Etienne this year. The guys ahead of him, I think, get a ton more work.
Exactly. You also had Bijan at like 4 or 5. You might have had Saquon a little bit higher.
I had Bijan at 4.
Yeah, I've got him there too. I think Jonathan Taylor at 5 for me, right behind Bijan, is only because of the fact that Zach Moss is gone. Jonathan Taylor is going to get the full workload again. In a lot of ways, I think Jonathan Taylor could push as the number 1 running back. He has that potential as a player. Same with Breece Hall. Breece Hall really doesn't have too much competition there and is just like such an electric player.
Now, they did bring in Braylon Allen.
Yeah.
And they did have Izzy. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that last name. I'm sorry, bro. The running back they drafted out of Pittsburgh last year. He's also on the roster. Very solid. And so Breece is at my number 2. And I'm saying all that to where, like, dude has been working with a potato at quarterback for his whole career to this point, and has still been a top 3 running back. Like, what he did last year with what he had to work with
was crazy.
Including the offensive line getting decimated throughout the year as well.
Now, his per game wasn't at a level of top 3. He had a couple of games where he just totally took off and was a total monster. Like, he had 0.9 points in one game, 3.2 in another, 8, 9, 8, 7.5, 2.3. But then he had almost a 40-point game. He finished the season with 37, 23, 28. Like, he had 26 in another. So he wasn't an average of 20, like where he's good for 20 every week. I think that with Aaron being there, he will be. That's why I have him as the number 2. Also, if he could do things like what he did against Washington, where he was only on the field for 77% of the snaps, but he had 20 rushing attempts for 2 touchdowns, 16 targets for 12 receptions and 96 yards. Like, the guy is the receiving threat besides Christian. That's why I've got him so high on my list.
Now, I will say I was between Breece and Jameer for my number 2 spot. Where Jameer has David Montgomery,
exactly.
I just had to drop him down a spot. But I do think he's going to take a significant jump.
Agreed.
And not even his ability, but his opportunities this year.
You heard about him and Amon Ra's bet. Amon says he'll basically get him whatever he wants if he goes 1,000 rushing, 1,000 receiving. Like, you name it, bro. I'll buy you whatever the fuck you want.
Now,
you get 1,000.
I do wonder if he were to go for like a 1,200 rushing and 800 receiving.
1,000. It's not 2,000 average. It's 1,000 each.
But the crazy thing is Christian McCaffrey led the league in rushing last year, and the guy only had like 1,200 yards. Like, we grew up in a day and age where 12 running backs were running for 1,400 yards.
Yeah, exactly.
And you were wondering if somebody was going to hit 1,600.
It's the running back by committee is so frequent now. You don't get bell cows anymore. Everybody is an efficiency guy.
How many duos have we talked about? We got Achane and Mostert both in here. We got Montgomery and Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs in here. We talked about
Jahmyr
Warren,
at 3.
Warren and Najee.
Yeah, and having Jahmyr at 3 and David Montgomery still on this list, like that's how good the Lions' run game is. Like, that's how good their running back room is.
It's so good. But hey, you guys, we absolutely appreciate all of your time. Be sure to keep on stepping in here with us so that way you can check out the rest of our ranking videos. We're going to be dropping stuff for you every week, so subscribe down below. 500 subscribers, we're giving away a jersey to one of you lucky viewers. TulsiRoseTea.com is the sponsor, at ProFootball_pod on the Twitter machine. We love you guys. Peace out.